But then recently, over the past couple weeks, we had two major moves in this very conference. First, the Bucks got Damian Lillard from Portland. The Dame trade finally happened. Thankfully, it was not to Miami. The Heat lost their hissy fit to give us Damian Lillard. Didn't work out. But then the Celtics, in a very shrewd move, Portland had Drew Holiday from that trade. They flip him to Boston. So now Boston has maybe the best guy in the league you would want to guard Damian Lillard on the other end of things. Obviously, the Sixers are in the East as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. But you guys let me know if you disagree, but I think this is a two-team conference this season, and if we're talking about who's going to make the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the betting odds. It's Boston and Milwaukee, and then whoever's going to, what teams are going to lose to them in the second round. I mean, the Sixers can already take care of that portion. We know that for a fact. But you make a big play. I don't think Milwaukee's much. Boston definitely, giving up a lot of depth and key rotation guys. Guys that have been with the team for years. I mean, we can even talk about Boston making a move for Porzingis earlier on and getting rid of the heart and soul of that team and Marcus Smart. These teams are clearly going all in right now, and I think it's worth it. I think at this point, especially if you're a team like Milwaukee, where you have this fear that Giannis could leave in free agency, you're not a free agency destination without him there. And if he's made it clear that he's not sure about his future, you need to make it clear that we are here for you and we'll give you whatever you want. And you do that by getting Dame. And we can talk obviously about where we think they're going to rank, but I do think there is a clear favorite amongst them, and we can get into that more. I'm curious what you guys think, but it's a two-team race at this point. I mean, injuries can happen, weirder things can happen, but right now it's Milwaukee and Boston. It's their conference to lose.
Yeah, as I said, I definitely agree with that because when you bring in a star like Lillard, that's obviously going to elevate your team. But then Boston, we can talk about them. I think I like Boston's overall roster a little better than last year's team. Buckman, what did you think about these two trades and where it leaves these two contenders off?
Yeah, I think Boston's the best team in the NBA. I think, like Joe said, getting rid of Marcus Smart is tough because he is the heart of your team. But I think Drew Holiday is, I mean, obviously they're different players, but they're not like, they don't play dissimilar roles, I would say. I'm a big KP fan, especially after he played for the Wizards, and I'm happy he has a chance to win for really like the first time in his career, because mediocrity has defined most of his career when he's been healthy. So I like Boston a lot. Obviously Dame is Dame, but I think I like Boston better.
Interesting. So I hate to be the middleman here. Joe, what did you think? I feel like you were setting yourself up maybe to say Milwaukee was the better team.
Milwaukee is a better team in my mind, and my reasoning is this. As a Sixers fan, I can tell you that I always feared Boston because of their depth. I'm okay with stars beating you. That's what stars are for. But it's when the sixth man, the seventh man, or the eighth guy in the rotation comes in and kills you on a consistent basis. That's what always worries me. And now the way I'm setting this up, it's hypocritical a little bit because Milwaukee really has no depth at all either. I mean, they're probably going to be starting Malik Beasley or Pat Connaughton at their two. I have no room to really be saying anything. However, I think that the gap between Lillard and Giannis and Tatum and Brown is very noticeable. I love Jaylen Brown as a player, but if Dame is considered the Robin in this situation, I don't really know what Jaylen Brown is considered. I'm not really familiar with superhero stuff. I'm sure Moni can maybe come up with something, but an analogy for something lower than a sidekick in comparison, because you have two top 10 guys. Who?
Drax.
Sure.
Just like a random guy from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right. Oh, that's Batista, right?
Yeah.
So David Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy, that's kind of what he is. But the point being is that you have two top 10 guys. There's here's the thing: they still got Middleton, they still got Lopez, they still got Bobby Portis. New coach. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because you're in a perfect situation. We thought the Embiid Harden pick and roll was dominant.
Oh man, yeah.
We're about to see a whole nother thing because Dame's offensive level as of right now is leaps and bounds above Harden currently. Is Harden maybe a better distributor and can get the ball in better places for his role man? Sure. But Giannis is a much better roller than Embiid is as well. So we want to talk about dominance. Even if one of them has an off night, you can trust Middleton. You can trust Bobby Portis. Like it's an interesting thing. And again, it's hard to talk about coaching, but I don't think Joe Mazzulla is the guy. I have a
No.
lot. I think they should have moved on from him. I'm happy as a Sixers fan because we went from a terrible coach to a competent one. And Boston's clearly lacking that right now. So I do think, Buckman, I understand where you're coming from. And I do think the Porzingis ad really does help them a lot. But when we want to talk about a duo in this era, this is better than Jokic and Murray by far. No one really can rival this, even without just on paper alone. It's them and then the rest of the league. They can duke it out for number two.
Yeah, I think that's a really good argument for the Bucks. And the thing about it is, I hate to do the play the middle ground, but I kind of agree with both of you. I personally, when I wrote down my standings, I had Boston as my number one seed because I think defensively, depth wise, I think they're a lot better than Milwaukee. But like you were saying, Joe, when it comes down to the postseason, and when the rotations get a little smaller, when it's guys are playing 40 minutes a night, I mean, we've seen Giannis dominate the playoffs. He's won a championship. We know that. And listen, I know Dame, he's only had that one conference finals run, but to me, he's always, at least most years, been a guy who shows up in the postseason. I think he has that killer instinct. He's one of my favorite players that has never played for the Sixers. I love watching that guy play. And last year, he proved he still has that scoring punch. To me, when it comes down to things in the playoffs, I think Damian Lillard can step up. And as a number two option, I think he certainly can step up. Now, Drew Holiday on the other side of things, we know he's given Dame trouble in the past in the postseason, but I don't know. I just think that the Milwaukee side of things, especially the front court matchup, I think Giannis and Brook in a series, I think that they do a really nice job down low against Boston. I know Porzingis is great, but I don't know if I think Giannis can bully Porzingis around. I don't think Porzingis has ever had a reputation as a Giannis stopper in matchups they've had. And I mean, Al Horford getting older every year, and I know he was pretty solid last year, but losing Robert Williams, they're losing a really important interior presence. And I think that will hurt them more in the playoffs against Giannis and Brook Lopez. But Buckman, what do you think about Boston? Why do you think they're the best team in the league?
I just think they're better balanced. I think Jaylen Brown will maybe even take a step up this year. I mean, it's historically a lot of guys will play their best in their contract years, but I think that he wants to win a championship. And I think the fact that he gets clowned every other day for that stupid video of him telling whoever it was that they were going to win five championships.
Oh, Taylor
Taylor
Rooks.
Rooks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think he wants to get it. I don't know if it'll happen this year. I do think Joe Mazzulla is a detriment to their teams. I just like that they can score the ball really well. I don't think they have anyone that's going to take away from them being able to score the ball. And I mean, kind of to your point about guarding Giannis, I definitely do believe that they'll struggle with that. I don't know. I don't know what if Tatum has an ability to guard Giannis, but I think that's probably the most realistic. I mean, Porzingis maybe, but Porzingis is slow, man. Horizontally, he's slow at times, and just saying that from a wizard. I mean, he's great in the paint. I think if he's guarding Brook, that he can do a really really good job. But if he's forced to guard Giannis in a playoff situation, I do think that's where it can get dicey.
A lot of the things you're saying about him is why I think they're going to have a monster regular season. To me, one of my favorite things in the NBA that any team can have is like I like to say like they have six starters because you have Drew, Brown, Tatum, KP. They're going to play every game. But then if you're going up against a bigger team, Horford can come in. But if you're going up against a more guard-centric team, Derek White, who was maybe just the best defensive guard in the league last season, just you could make the argument for that. The depth on this team is really impressive, and they made a lot of smart signings. I think just a lot of like even re-signing Peyton Pritchard. People might have been surprised by that, but think about it with Brogdon and Smart out the door. Pritchard's going to play a lot more this year. I was looking at their depth chart, and he's certainly going to be one of their best bench players this season. I know a lot of Celtics fans are excited about Jordan Walsh, their rookie. So I think they've made a lot of improvements with their bench, and I don't know, like I still, like I said, I think Milwaukee would beat them in a postseason series, but I think this Celtics team can match up against just about any team in the league on any given night. Joe, what do you think about Boston's depth as it compares to Milwaukee? Because to me, the Bucks maybe a glaring concern for them is that outside of Bobby Portis, your bench is looking a little shortchanged.
Yeah, their bench isn't great. I'll say that. Like I know I mentioned that Boston's depth is what always scared me. I'm not as scared now, but they still have some guys that can come off. And like you said, they have the ability to change out lineups with ease. Like it's not like they need to worry about a mismatch coming in. They can game plan with ease. Here's the thing though, any buyer or championship contending team, when it comes to the trade deadline, whatever assets you have, you can definitely make a move for capable veterans. I'm sure there's plenty of veterans that are going to get bought out this season that are going to be looking right at Milwaukee or Boston and saying, I can fill a role for you. Let me come in. So as we learned this season, this might sound very like a dumb take, but the regular season doesn't really matter that much in many instances because, yeah, home court advantage matters, but when you have a team like Miami who finished as the eighth seed and made it to the finals, it doesn't really matter as much as long as you're playoff ready. So yes, while Boston might be able to win more games this year than Milwaukee, when it comes down to when it actually matters and it gets down to a 7-man rotation in a game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, I want the 7 in Milwaukee before I'm taking the 7 in Boston. I don't care about the versatility. That doesn't mean anything to me when you have Dame and Giannis. When you have those two guys, everyone will figure out their role.
But when you say that,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he's pretty spot on with everything he said. It's no secret. I mean, the NBA's regular season has always been kind of overlooked, and I have a ton of friends just like on a personal level that say they can't watch the NBA regular season because of blah 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 blah. And obviously it's all the college basketball versus NBA thing, but I do agree with it to an extent. I love NBA regular season basketball, but it's the playoffs are a whole different thing. And those rotations shrinking is such a huge piece of how the postseason operates.
hmm I think an important piece for the Bucks as those rotations shrink is like because I was saying even with Boston, I love their top six. I think they play really well. To me, the important thing for Milwaukee is that maybe right now we're like, maybe their top five, top six isn't as good. But Chris Middleton, they gave him a new contract. They must have some semblance that they believe in him to get close to the player that he was a few years ago before he's dealt with all these injuries. If he can get back to the player he was when they were winning the championship or when they were the one seed, things of that nature, all of a sudden that gives them a really versatile player on the wing who can, if Dame's getting hounded by Derek White and Drew Holiday, another guy who can maybe ball handle a little, another guy who can create, another guy who can, score 20 points a game or more. So that's going to be important for them if he can, make a drastic improvement from last season. And then Brooke had maybe his best offensive season since Brooklyn last year. And if he's going to continue to play as well as he did on both ends and not regress due to his age, which I think a lot of people expected, but it was certainly not the case last season. I mean, their interior defense is going to be good, but also their offense will remain very scary. So that's why I think Milwaukee's probably the better team. I think you can argue a lot about durability on both sides of things. Boston with Porzingis, with Horford, with Holiday, Milwaukee with Middleton, maybe with Brooke. He had a back injury 2 years ago. So there's questions on both sides, but to me, I think the Bucks, as long as the guys they're counting on to start perform up to the level that they expect, I think they'll be able to beat Boston.